And you may remember before the election, in a kind of virtue signalling, though ill-defined fit, the then Speaker of the House withdrew, and actually it wasn't much. We talked, I think, at the time to a guy called Mark Unsworth from Saunders and Unsworth, who are a lobbying firm or a PR firm or whatever. And basically, a number of people who need regular access to politicians get a special parliamentary pass. Getting into Parliament's quite hard. They actually have security now. Ben and I need one to go to press conferences, where that's why we've got to be members of the press gallery. But then, of course, a select group of lobbyists were given passes, which didn't mean they can bowl into the ninth floor of the Beehive. It meant they could go to the bar, they could go to the cafe, and they could get into the general open precincts of Parliament without having to go through the kerfuffle of security and identity every time. It seemed to me a practical solution for people from all walks of life. It wasn't just commercial lobbyists who needed access or were essentially working around the parliamentary complex. But Chris Hipkins got the pip, Labor got all Marxist about it, and they were pulled. They're back. Those passes and stuff are back, but under what conditions and why? Well, someone who's pretty hot on or pretty concerned to keep an eye on the lobbyists and keep things transparent is our good friend Bryce Edwards from the Democracy Project, and he joins us on the line now. Bryce, how are you, mate?
Morning, Sean. Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm always keen on these lobbying stories. I watch it pretty closely. And, you have to remember what this was all about. All over the world, people are getting a bit more concerned about the power of people with deep pockets on the political process. And then you've got lobbyists who seem to be becoming more powerful, especially those connected with the politicians and sometimes those that...
So this would include with Labor groups like Unionists...
Yep.
And Greenpeace and people like that, they also lost their passes?
Look, I believe so. And of course, there was a bit of concern about the power of this. So Chris Hipkins announced a few changes, about a year ago. One of them was getting rid of special passes for interest groups, lobbyists, etc. This was always a bit more symbolic than anything,
Yeah, it was. It was a run-up to election, Bryce. Yeah.
It was. But there was good questions about why do these people have special swipe passes? And I think it was a popular move, maybe a populist move. And nothing's really changed since then. So we had a story on RNZ to say that Jerry Brownlee, the new Speaker, has reversed this and he's now giving out these passes to lobbyists. It turns out that was a bit of misunderstanding. And he hasn't actually reversed it.
No, hang on, RNZ got it wrong?
I think so, yes.
They ran a kind of anti-government story that wasn't actually real? Gosh, Bryce. Sorry, just let me sit down and catch my breath.
Well, Jerry Brownlee had told RNZ that he had given out some passes to people that could be seen as lobbyists. And I think he was maybe being a bit tongue-in-cheek. He'd actually given out passes to people associated with the Green Party and to Party Māori, people that were involved in organising the party. So they weren't on the parliamentary payroll.
It makes sense because there are party organisations, like Labor's got a party structure and a corporate structure, so's National. That makes good sense. Otherwise, it's just bloody impractical and they couldn't do their stuff. And
they also give them out to family members and so forth for access, and that's kind of fair enough. So he said, I've given out some passes to some people that, you could say are lobbyists. They play a political role, and so I think RNZ got the wrong end of the stick and thought, this is lobbyists. But no.
Oh, gosh, it was the end of the world at the press conference on Monday, Bryce.
Well, it turns out to not quite be accurate. So
we haven't basically got a taxi rank of tobacco lobbyists going in and out of Parliament?
Not at all, no. One thing he did change, which I think you might critique him for, is he's no longer willing to say who these people are. He says, let's give privacy to these people.
You can kind of understand for family members and that, can't you?
Yeah, maybe there's a good point in that. I tend to think he should still publicise who these people are. If you want to have the swipe passes, you have to be on the list, the public list.
And, of course, the Speaker's office is not subject to the Official Information Act, so we can't discover that information, can we?
Yeah, which is a bit of a bugger, really. I think that's something that the parliamentarians themselves have given them a cutout from the OIA that they don't have to give up information. But that's another story. But the other part of this lobbyist story is that the Ministry of Justice are doing some reform work on how to better regulate lobbyists, about whether they should have a code of conduct, and that seems to be watered down at the moment, but that's not necessarily the government's fault. But what they're coming out with is a bit weaker than what it was expected. It's going to be a voluntary code of conduct.
Sorry, I'm just trying to figure that out. Is this lobbyists who get access to Parliament? I mean, why do we need...
No, this is just about those in the lobbying industry. Should they have any sort of code of conduct about whether they, have rules about how they operate? And currently, the Ministry of Justice are drawing up a code of conduct that they can voluntarily adhere to, rather than being forced to. And some of the things on this list are pretty good. About being transparent about who their clients are, when they meet with ministers and so forth. But it's only going to be voluntary by the looks of things.
Yeah, so anything really dirty going on will still be kept secret, Bryce.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Hey, look, in more general terms, at the Democracy Project, you have obviously been closely observing the first, the opening stanzas of a new government and looking at what the polls are saying. Some suggestion that actually, despite the mainstream media's coverage that we're going to have some sort of race war or revolution, New Zealanders in general seem pretty happy with a new government. It's what they voted for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not sure we're not having some big discontent in the public about race issues, and there might.
But we look at the polls; they're not
looming. But it's not that everyone's siding against the government and everyone's angry with the government. No, the government's going up in the polls, especially National and especially ACT. So there was this Courier poll that came out last week. One of the unreported or less reported parts is asking people what the biggest issue is in politics. And of course, it's always at the moment cost of living and the economy. But the third one was treaty issues. And so that's actually a big...
That has moved up the list of priorities.
Moved up.
Yeah.
Yes. People are actually concerned about...
Well, I'd suggest, Bryce, my observation would be that is because having lived for some time in an environment where saying what you thought wasn't always encouraged, people are now more relaxed, I think, about saying what really does worry them and wind them up.
Yeah, look, we have had, decades of a pretty strong consensus between at least the main parties, Labour and National, about the treaty, and, it's been a kind of elite consensus where the public haven't really been involved. They're not really wanted in that discussion. And when they do show discontent with that, they are, put in their place or
called racist
or whatever. And so it's a bit like what you've had in Britain over the last few decades of increasing concern about the integration of Britain into the EU and the role of the EU and immigration, and Labour and the Conservatives kind of had a consensus on that, but the public
now, Bryce, I think this is interesting what you just said. Now that I think about it, do you think the Treaty Principles Bill might be our Brexit?
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
So, absolutely. There's a rising number of people that really do want to debate on this and really do want to say. And Labour and National are saying, no, you can't have that say. But ACT, of course, have picked up on this and know that there's a lot of people that do feel that the public should be involved in this. And so that's why they've jumped, 5% in the polls up to 14%.
But we look at the effect that the Brexit debate has had on British politics and British public life, if you like.
Huge. Yeah.